If I'm wrong and it's a blowout for Harris, the first round is all on me. Let it come back.
All right, it's a deal.
If I'm wrong that it's not going to be close, then
your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well trained, well equipped, and battle hardened.
There is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America.
Good night and good luck.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the Lincoln Project Podcast. Our very special guest today is Senator John Fetterman of the great state of Pennsylvania. I am so happy you joined us today, sir. I would like to talk to you right away about the big question people are asking. What's it feel like on the ground in Pennsylvania right now in the Harris-Trump race? I see the tremendous amount of resources going into the state. Talk to us about where you see the state of play right now in Pennsylvania.
Oh, well, I get that asked a lot. And my honest response is just the same that I've been saying since 2016. There is a lot of amazing energy on both sides, significant on both. And I would just want people that maybe they live in California or Massachusetts or a state that they don't experience a lot of that kinds of parts. But Trump is incredibly popular, and there's a level of devotion in parts of Pennsylvania. And that is not unlike a celebrity kinds of situation. Now, for example, they have gigantic kinds of roadside shops that have dozens and dozens of kinds of different, shirts and hats. And I just don't know where they all come from in these things. It's almost like it's like concert kinds of swag things. And there's a lot of devotion in that. And that's
right.
And that's why people surely should be concerned that it's going to be very close. And you could really starting to recognize that back in 2016. It's like, wow, everybody assumed that Clinton was going to run away with it because,
right.
well, he's unfit. I mean, this is crazy. And then you start to see more and more kinds of a connection, especially in my part of the state. And I thought, well, this might be closer than we think, and it could be an issue. And that's,
right.
Of course, what happened. And then in 2020, it's that same kind of energy as well, too. Now, he's been a terrible, terrible president. We can all agree. But this was a man that in 2020, and anybody can look in my Twitter, I had pictures out. They were 20,000 people showing up in Butler County. Right. I mean, if somebody can assemble 20,000 people at a rally, that's not a 5-point race. And that was 80,000 votes in Pennsylvania, and Joe Biden carried it. And now I would see it's that same kind of synergy, and that's where we're at now. And now Trump is returning back to Butler County, the place where he almost lost his life. And now that really created a very unique kinds of moments, too, that was really kind of a clarion call for a lot of their supporters, and really having people that may not be involved in politics or care or even know who their congressman is or who their county people are. But if I know if Trump's on it, so that's why I'm always saying that I would expect anybody to be very close, and we're just going to keep our heads down. And I'm going to, like tonight, I'm going to Butler County. It's very red.
Yeah, I think that, my takeaway from what you just said, and I guess the message of the Harris campaign and everybody else in the Democratic Party is this is not going to be easy in Pennsylvania. We have a lot of work to do to make this a successful.
It's hand to hand. I would disagree. It's hand to hand for every vote, 100%. And I'm in rooms. The Democratic energy is incredible as well too.
Sure.
I mean, the love is real for Harris, 100%. I mean, that's. I'm not just saying that because I have it too. We go to Johnstown at the airport. I mean, there was hundreds and hundreds of people, and they were going gaga for that. Right. So that's why those forces are going to collide here in Pennsylvania, and that's why I would expect that it's going to be pretty close.
One of the things I've seen in Pennsylvania that in the collar counties around Philly is there are a lot of pro-choice Republican women in those counties, a lot of pro-choice moderate women in those counties. It seems like the Dobbs issue is big there, but economics has a really dominant position in the rest of the state as driving forces.
Oh no, Dobbs, of course. abortion is absolutely an issue in Pennsylvania. And yeah, anyone in those collar counties or everywhere across Pennsylvania.
Right.
I mean, they must be appalled to have that and to have that kind of a fundamental right, I thought, for the last 50 years and to have that taken back. If I can't ever remember that kind of a right recalled like that the way it was. And now the polls show that Harris trusts that issue much more than Trump does. And if that's one of your key issue, I can't imagine why anybody would even consider the Trump ticket. And you also mentioned the economic, and I don't really know why the polls reflect that Trump might have a higher trust. I don't.
Right.
But that is certainly that's definitely part of that clash here in Pennsylvania.
Is the sense that some of the stuff that you guys have helped pass, like the economic or the Inflation Reduction Act and the infrastructure bill, is that starting to get? Do people have that top of mind yet in Pennsylvania? Is that starting to trickle in there? Does it feel like those are effective?
No, it's not that. I've never encountered somebody that say, "Hey, let's talk about this," or "Oh, I remember that." It's really a gut check. That's what it is. It is a gut check.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that have already decided, "Hey, Trump is my guy," or it's like Harris. I mean, that's the new way forward. Absolutely, I could never go back to those 4 years of Trump and any of the undecideds to everything. I think it's going to come down to like. What's my gut check on this? I mean, who could I possibly, trust my vote to that? And then that's why I think Harris is going to come out ahead, and that's why Joe Biden did. And if anybody thinks that in our business that you can calibrate, like a 4D chess kind of thing, that you could get a message
right.
just to win just by 10,000 votes in like Georgia or Wisconsin or Arizona, like it did in 2020. I mean, it's undeniable that was a coin toss on that, and that's why I'm saying I don't care what if you Ezra Klein or some rando on the street has the same odds to predict how this is 50-50. Well, if somebody says, "Oh, Trump's going to win," well, and if he does, that doesn't make you a genius. Or if someone says Harris is going to win, that doesn't make you a genius. It's going to be like coining. It's calling a coin toss.
Yeah, and I think Pennsylvania being such a state where you've shown how you can go out and win over people who should, on paper, look like red voters, look like Republican voters. You've been able to cross some of that by being genuine and authentic. And I think Trump had that advantage for a while. He seemed like he was a straight shooting character to a lot of people. I don't think it feels the same way quite anymore. Maybe there's still some of them. It seems to have come down some. Is she connecting at the level with people on their economic concerns? Do they feel like I think that's the case. I just wanted to hear your take on it.
No, I thought that was an interesting point that you made. It's like a straight shooter. I think he's taken that to a far. That's way beyond that. I remember, if anyone's listening, ever watched Bullworth.
Oh yeah,
that iconic, and that I was in grad school at that time, and actually they even had an event at Kennedy School to watch it. And it's absurd. This can't possibly have a politician just kind of saying
right.
And Trump has transformed that way past Bullworth, and that's why people. I think that's part of the basal kinds of appeal, where he'll say those kinds of things and he'll push back and set that. I think any reasonable person to be like, why would you pick a fight with Taylor Swift, the biggest celebrity in the world? And I think their supporters can appreciate it. It's like, hey, I can, and I'm going to do those things. And I think, to some people, that's their feature. And that's not a bug. And there's a lot of people that like, why is this appealing to anybody? I don't get it, but it does exist, and that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, I see a lot of polling now that some of the things she's proposing have been very popular, even with some more Republican leaning voters. The first-time home buyer tax credit, the child tax credit, the increase in the child care deductions, those things seem like they feel practical, they feel real, they feel like they're accomplished things you could accomplish in the Senate and the House. Do you think that's connecting with voters in Pennsylvania?
I wish I could say yes, absolutely. This is kind of like a white paper, like a nuanced policy election. But that's not where we're at on those
Right.
things. I
Yeah.
think it comes back to that gut check. And now, of course, Harris is talking about a normal candidate and saying very reasonable things. And, economists can agree or they could argue. And then you have Trump talking about, eating the dogs and eating the cats. And, like if I lose, it's the Jews' fault. And can you even imagine if Harris was saying even a small times of those kinds of things? I mean, it's like,
Right.
Can you imagine if Harris would blame the Jews or that, you target like the Haitians and blame these kinds of things? And that's why I've been calling out the media. It's like, why can't you pretend like it would be a compliment to call Trump an unserious? No, no. He is like shambolic and in a reckless thing, and that's to enough voters. They find that again. That's the feature. That's not the bug.
Right. Yeah, they like the transgressiveness and the craziness, and they think we're gonna burn down the system that we don't really like because this guy is so loco, he's so off the charts that we're gonna have some fun doing this instead of it being terrifying as I think it should be. So, what does Harris need to do in Pennsylvania, in your mind, to continue to move this thing forward?
I've been asked that too, and I'm going to have that same answer. It's like, hey, I'm not going to mansplain, the vice president how to win Pennsylvania. It's not a mystery on winning Pennsylvania. I did it. There's a lot of people that have won Pennsylvania. I don't anybody think that it's possible, but it's going to be difficult because Trump is on the ballot for that, and he has a very special kind of connection there. And I don't mean that's not a compliment. That's just where we are. And you may not like it, but you have to respect that and acknowledge it. And so I do think that, he already realizes that too. So I'm not going to say, well, hey, sit down. I'm going to tell you here, you got to do.
Right.
No, that's that. She has, incredible team. She has all the resources that she would need. And at the end of the day, we're probably going to have an outcome that's not going to be unlike either in 16 or in 2020.
Yeah, I keep telling people, expect a close race. Don't expect a blowout, no matter in either direction in Pennsylvania. It is going to be as it is. It's a big state. It's a complicated state. It's an expensive state to run in. You know that very well, and it takes a lot of hammering away at small groups of people to try to get an outcome that isn't going to be a dead tie. It's really going to be the polling is noisy. There's a lot of polling out there that just shows her +4, +5, or him +1, +2. I don't buy any of it. I think people have to run through the tape on this thing.
I agree with you. Absolutely. It's like polls. It's just they're terrible. I mean, in my race. They, even 538 predicted I'm going to lose by maybe 1 to 2 points, and I won by 5 points. So, and they're also the Republicans. You're going to see they're going to start to dump a lot of these Republican kinds of polls. Bam, 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 bam. And one of the tragedies that I don't think people talk about from 2020 is my friend Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin.
Right.
People would assume that he was going to go down by 5 points. And he only lost by 30,000 votes. And we could have picked off Johnson if there was just a little more resources on that. So I think drilling down and realizing what does it look like out on the ground. And I would say that I believe if anyone in terms of polls, you should assume that Trump will overperform where the polls are. And
right.
That's why I thought that it's never going to be a 5-point race here in Pennsylvania in 2020.
So let me change subjects just slightly. The Senate race this year is, your colleague Bob Casey and Dave McCormick are going at it.
Bob Casey, woohoo! I gotta rep Bob.
Absolutely. It looks like that race is a little more clear. He looks he's maintaining a decent head of steam, a decent lead. What's your take on it?
100%. That's an easy take. I said this to my friend, 9, 11 months ago. It's like, you are not like somebody was thinking that McCormick was going to be a buzzsaw, and I'm like,
Right.
he lost to Oz, for Pete's sake. And he legit hasn't landed a single glove on Bobby.
Right.
And now, if you haven't done that in 40 days to go, that's not going to happen.
Right.
And that's a dude that lives in Connecticut, and there's nothing wrong with living in Connecticut. But if you're running for the Senate in Pennsylvania, people can smell bullshit like that. And that's exactly where we are. And the last time the Republicans thought a weird, really rich dude from a different state is going to be a great option, we all know how that happened in 22. So that's why I legit have never, and I also said, Bobby, you will not see a legit poll that has you down on him. And now we're 40 days out, and haven't seen that, and we won't.
I've noticed even some of the bullshit Republican polls like Trafalgar and whatnot, they're still showing Casey up with a meaningful head of steam. If they can't even bullshit their way past it, you kind of know where things are going.
Yeah, exactly. They're even their own models, to lie, can't even allow that to project that. So and I just had a conversation. I thought I would expect that Casey could maybe even outperform Harris. That doesn't mean that that Casey's more popular or anything. It just means that hundreds of millions of dollars are pounding on Harris, and
right.
It's just like, and that's the thing, that kind of a blowtorch that that's going to bring their numbers down on that. That's what everybody has to understand, that it's not because there's it's just all of the forces that are coming all at once and converging. You have hundreds of millions of dollars. You have the Fox News blowtorch, and then you have all the conservative influencers on social media, and they all bear down, and that's going to take a hit for anyone's approval percentage.
Well, I think, John, that one of the things that you've been able to successfully do is you've become kind of an iconoclast. You are running because you're a Pennsylvania guy. And you are running because you have I think a clear view of like where your people are. You're progressive on some things, more center on other things, iconoclastic on a lot of things. Isn't that kind of the way that people should expect their leaders to be? Like more diverse in their beliefs than just like, I'm the straight party line guy no matter what state I'm from.
I don't know. I have the running bad dad joke. I never give any advice except in fashion. I don't tell anyone you should be a better Democrat like me or do this or X, Y. I would never tell a Democrat on your views or, hey, on your district, and any congressperson knows their own district or state more than I do. I'm not in the advice business just any more than I would for the vice president.
Right. But that, that level, I think you see a lot of candidates more on I think in the Republican Party, but a good number in the Democratic Party who are like, you can't tell where they're from. You can't tell because they have like one set of policies or beliefs and it's identical to 100 other people in their party. And I think that's sort of like, I think it gives you a set of, you're stronger as a candidate and a leader if you are talking about your people and your state or your district and your state rather than just like one cookie cutter list.
Oh, sure. I agree. And I try to be the kind of candidate or senator that I would want. And I would rather have somebody know, hey, I agree with you on X, Y, and Z, but I don't on Y kinds of issues. At least I can respect that. I would never want to pander to anyone. And if sometimes I have some views that might, be move against, my own politics and with my base or whatever, it's like I'd rather have how I feel about those things rather than kind of pretend or keep my head down or be evasive and not say, well, I don't know, and be so that's how I've chosen to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that respects the voters more, right? I mean, it seems like more like that's being honest with your people.
Right. You talk about authentic. John Tester. Everyone's talking about Tester, and again, it's all running on Montana. And now, like that dude is the real,
Absolutely.
Like you can't fake that. Guys like McCormick or whatever, they show up at Cabela's and they still have the tags of their orange, walking around saying, "Yeah, I just bagged me three feet of pheasants," kind of, and it's like they can smell that like dog shit on their shoe. That but Tester is like a real dude. He's missing 3 fingers from it's like he is a farmer that happens to be in the Senate. And that's why it's a remarkable that he has been able to be a Democrat in a state that's always been very Democratic. And now here it's such a challenge because he has to bench press 1,000 pounds.
Right.
And, it's like, I would expect Trump's going to win by 18 to 20 points. And now you could be the strongest guy in the world, but that's a lot of weight on that. And if anybody can do it, he's the kind of candidate that would even make Republicans panic. That it's like, oh my God, that's why they've committed $120 million.
Yeah. In Montana, you could buy all the TV stations for that much money. It's crazy how much they're spending.
I said that too. I was like, I think there's maybe 600,000 voters there. It's like, and now it's like $200 million on the ground. It's like, having $100,000 in cash, walking into Burger King saying you have to spend all of that. It's like, I have no idea how you could do that. Like how much, other than, giving each voter $10,000 to, whatever. It's just so bizarre. But it must be absurd and surreal to be a voter in Montana because there's no gigantic cities or there's not like a Philadelphia or New York kinds of media market. So I don't know what it must be like on the ground.
I have a buddy out there who said, I literally cannot escape wall to wall nonstop ads in that state. So yeah, it is. Yeah, and John is a great candidate, and he's a very effective candidate because you're right. He's a farmer. There's no bullshit with him,
and beloved too. I want to say, like everybody within my caucus, like he is like revered, and it's just like you will see. Like God forbid if they are not able to, you're not gonna see a dry eye in the room because people, he is so beloved, and.
I know people in the Republican caucus who love the guy to death.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's like if you've been paid to or you're just desperate in an election, nobody can even say a bad thing about.
No, he's really hard to.
And what's really would be sad. I mean, I'm not even talking about the majority kinds of things, but it's like that's the kind of guy that should be in politics, and that is like a relic, and I mean that in the best way.
Sure.
Of the kinds of citizen legislator kinds of thing that and a farmer I would want to tell everybody in Montana, like if you want a pro Montana guy, that's Tester, not a successful rich guy like who's just trying to buy a seat, where Montana has farmed that land. And if you want a pro Montana guy, but you just couldn't be someone stronger than Tester.
I completely agree with that. Well, John Fetterman, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your insights in Pennsylvania. We're going to be there at Lincoln Project a lot in Pennsylvania in the coming weeks and doing what we can do. But it is going to be it's the state to watch, my friend. And I want to thank you again for coming on the show today.
Yeah, well, if I'm wrong and it's a blowout for Harris, the first round is all on me. Come back.
All right, it's a deal.
If I'm wrong that it's not going to be close, then
right? Oh, believe me, I'm happy for it not to be close.
A good plan to have. A good
problem to have. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate you. We'll see you again next time.
Well, thanks for having me on.
And good luck.